Man, how are you doing, bro?
Man, I'm doing well, man. I'm doing much better in the spiritual journey, you must say. Feel like I'm walking more with the ancestors more every day. So, I'm doing good, man. Fighting, keeping up the good fight, man. Fighting the good fight. Miss Londa, nice to finally meet you. I'm just now getting familiar with Sip and Talk over the last month. Um, keep up the good work. I'm proud of everybody. Podcast lit, Sip and Talk. Even with the shit podcast, I'm proud of everybody that's around doing their thing. Yeah, just glad to be here. Like I say, I feel like I'm walking more with the ancestors every day, and just here to fight the good fight, man. So I'm doing good, doing good.
Amen, amen. Man, let's go ahead and start off with the first. Thanks for doing this first. So much for just going ahead and start off with the first, man.
Yes,
Where
sir.
you at in your spiritual journey, if you don't mind me asking? Well,
Um,
first off, let me ask you, how did you get started in your spiritual journey before I ask you that?
Absolutely. Trials and tribulation, man. Being a black man from the ghettos, whether you're from Akron, Ohio, whether you in Arizona, where you New York, California, no matter where you at, it's always a struggle to fight against poverty and normal oppression of life. I wasn't always the figure or character I am. I always was trying to be better, but couldn't implicate it or apply the information that I was getting. So, I spent a long time in the streets, gang banging, being a so-called hoodlum, trying to be a goon, trying to be a gangster. And after, getting stabbed, almost getting kidnapped, brother going to jail for multiple decades, multiple friends dying, just beating the incarceration in the judicial system myself, facing 8 years in prison and beating that case, I was left with only a couple options. And I feel like we're all left with only a couple options of life. You're given multiple decisions. You have to pick A or B. And in my case, it was the streets or Buddhism. And, I picked Buddhism and I haven't looked back ever since. I'm not currently Buddhist at the moment. I converted out of Buddhism. I am considered an omniist, a Sufi of the world, one who conjoins multiple religions, multiple spiritual systems into one. So that is the beginning of how everything started. Like I said, I give great applause and great credit to the system and the teachings of Buddhism to guide me along this way and bring me thus far. Uh, so to keep it in short terms and keep it in layman's terms, I was combating like I said, the judicial system, the racist, the systematic system oppression that we're facing here, the streets, gang violence, drug usage, and Buddha was one of the great teachers that brought me to the light. So that's how we got started on the spiritual journey. To keep it light, keep it short.
Okay, before we get to the Buddhism spirituality that you're into, I do want to say, man, I want to congratulate you on, commend you on the road that you're on because, you know, I remember you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
I remember you. We ain't gonna start no games, but I seen where you came from to where you are now. So for people that don't know you, I won't say the position that this man was in from what I was seeing. Um, a lot of people could have been heartbroken. You know what I'm saying? His parents, a lot of other people's parents. I think his parents heartbroken right now, man. Shout out dudes, free dudes. But but yeah. So just commend this man for what he's doing, the information that he got. If y'all know him, when I know him at a younger age, I would have never thought that this man would have even came up with any of the things that he comes up with now, any of the ideas, the scientific things that he do. You
Thank
would have
you.
never
Thank
even expected this out of this man. So I definitely commend you personally, bro. I definitely want to say that.
you. Yes, sir.
Um, so where are you at spiritually? You say you into Buddhism. What is that about?
Well, I was Buddhist for maybe 3 years, 17 to 20 years old, maybe 21. And I converted out of Buddhism. I was finding different teachings. I was raised by my mother, who was an evangelist missionary in the Christian church, a very strong woman, very powerful woman under the Christianity veil. I don't turn a blind eye to any religion that can help anyone live a better life, even if it is oppressive ties to the religion. Any system that can make you live better tomorrow. I give all credit to that. So my mom was an evangelist in the Christian church, so I kind of already understood Christianity and what it meant to be a good Christian. Um, so I had those teachings interact with my Buddhist teachings early on. Like I say, from 17 through 21, I was studying Buddhism heavily, and I still love the religion. I still believe that it's one of the oldest religions. I believe it's one of the oldest systems that we can use to truly be peaceful people, not only blacks in America, but a humane system that we can usher into the world. I believe it's one of the most precious and calming systems that we have to tap into. But I did, after 21, I did convert out of Buddhism um, for many reasons. One of the main reasons is that I'm a black man inside of America and living a life of peace as well, but not in the urban areas. You know, turning the other cheek, meditating when it's time for war. These will shorten your lifespan. I didn't believe that we could implicate as much peace as we needed to into the life, into the traditions, into the system that we're facing here in America as black men and women. So, not downplaying Buddhism, but the peace component was a big war inside myself. I knew that I still needed to keep a war mentality, fighting against the oppressive system on the so-called Caucasians, fighting against the oppressive system against the so-called ignorant or misuseful Negroes of our community. So this is when I found Islam, a more war tactic mentality type of religion or system. And once I found out that the black man is God, it kind of gave me a liberation. And this is what Islam did for me, telling me that I am a king, I am a God, and we are the only chosen ones of this earth that walks this earth on the godly manner. So Islam kind of, drawed me back to my African ties. And I always had so-called black magic or Budan inside of me now that I run back my history or lineage. But as I found Allah, I found Africa. And as I found Africa, I get to studying what religion was over there. And one of the oldest religions over there was Buddha. Voodoo is actually another word for God, another word for the system that we speak of as far as reaching so-called nirvana or enlightenment. So once I found Africa, I started to find what the true God was, which was enrooted in voodoo and Voodoo and hoodoo and Santeria and other systems that we have. So once I found these so-called systems or ways of life or traditions of life, it gave me a more versatile understanding of what all of these religions was supposed to be placed here for. So at a certain point in time, my videos get everywhere. I wish I had more love here in Akron, Ohio, but I get love everywhere. And I say this to say that my videos reach New Zealand, Australia, but specifically Africa, Ghana. And once my videos reached over there, I reached out with a couple different families over there and got give my name and give my different DNA tracements and different things like that, and started to really speak with people over there. To wrap it up, is what I'm saying is I got to personally speak with people over from the motherland to get these voodoo ties, to get these voodoo teachings, and they coined me as a Sufi as we was going through the method. And a Sufi is just a teacher of the world, a great shaman or guru, enlightened or selected of many people of the world. So once I became a Sufi of the mind, I finally became a Sufi of the body. So if I was to say, as far as if I was to practice any so-called religion or follow any spiritual path, I would say at the moment I'm an omniist, which is a collective of multiple religions. Specifically, me, it is Islam, Buddha, Christianity, and Judaism, and Buddha being the capital root base of all. Um, so I know that was long-winded, but it is a long journey as far as the spirituality go, and as far as religions in any system, it is a precious one that takes patience. So I can tell you this, but I was just telling someone that we're always changing, and that's how you truly evolve your DNA. So I could be a so-called omniist today, but I could also be a 100% voodoo priest tomorrow if nature or the universe calls me to be. So omniism gives me the versatile to communicate with other religions, give me the versatile to communicate with other traditions and communities, and still feel a part of the same fight in war. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So let me ask you this then. You state that you are in the communism, meaning that you could be a part of, or you could believe in any religion, or you take parts of all religion, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, so when you say oppressive um, religion, are we speaking more like closer to Christianity?
Yes, sir. This is one where I say it gets paid. You need patience with these systems, and I don't think a lot of people take patience with it. But yes, Christianity highly is the number one religion that have oppressed billions of people for thousands of years of time. They have used Christianity as not a system or a tradition, but more as a tool and an object to control large groups of people. And I don't only mean African Americans or Africans in Africa, but even Vikings versus the Norwegians versus the so-called true Europeans, which they would deem themselves as Russian, German, so-called Frankie, as we know it now as France. So the French and the Portuguese and the Dutch. These cultures or these races of people or nationalities have used the system so much to this point where Christianity deems to be a oppressive system if not used correctly and if not only on a pilgrimage. I always say if you're a Christian, and this is what Christians do not do, and this is why they run into the oppressive system, is you don't take pilgrimages. If Christians all over the world went back to Jerusalem, if Christians all over the world went back to Israel, went back to Ethiopia, Ethiopia is one of the most Christianized places in the world. They would get the true Christianity, and the oppressive system will deem out of these religions. But Judaism is oppressive as well, and even Islam is oppressive as well, based on the regions that you are in, based on the wars that took place in the time zones. So we just have to be very careful, and this is why I always implicate patience into religion. So, but to answer your question in the short term, yes, I am highly speaking about Christianity. Yes, sir.
Well, no, I would say the reason I asked that is because I'm having a spiritual battle within myself, personally, as far as which religion is right, which one to go to. Like I beat guys, I'm a Christian. If you gonna say I was in the wrong religion or whatever, I'm a Muslim, you gonna sound wrong or however that works. So, um, I definitely want to know that because I do see Christianity as an outlook, as an out for people, who feel like if they can just repent for their sins and then free. It's like, well, I got to do whatever, if I'm free, at least I say, God forgive me or whatever, and I'm like, well, that's over. Like if you do it once, maybe, but you can't keep on doing it and asking for forgiveness because that's going to anyway. If I don't know that, then that would be a bad ideology to go by. But
Absolutely.
I do see it as that because a lot of times everybody who goes the Christian route ends up being in a suppressed situation, and they always just give it all to God. Like, I'm gonna just give it to God. I'm gonna just give it to God. But most religions believe in themselves to do it,
Right.
with most likely like the power of God or the power of the universe. You know what I'm saying? Where this one we going through God, we just want them to do it. We just gonna stand and wait for it. So I definitely want to know if that's what you talked about as far as the Christianity part goes.
Yes,
I
sir.
do have a question from Miss Linda. She asked, "How did you get started with Buddhism?" And I believe you said it earlier, right? You was I think that it was a mixture from starting with your mother and the Christianity part of it, and then you moved over to Muslim, kind of found yourself with the black man, and then the Buddhism or the excuse me, the say it again.
Buddha, Buddha and voodoo. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so let's get into that real quick.
Yes, sir. And to answer Miss Linda's question more thoroughly, it's just a struggle, And one thing is to deem on what you said about Christianity, and just to wrap this up thoroughly, is that Christianity is one of the easiest religions. It does not require you to follow that book. It does not require you to follow a diet. It does not require you to meditate. It requires you to pray 2 times a day. And if you look, prayer is the lowest way you can get in contact with a God or a higher entity. It's a very easy religion. Like I say, you don't have to wear certain things. You don't have to even go to church because they tell you that gods don't dwell in buildings. So this is the combative, the people not going to church. It has become a financial scheme, and it has become a comfortable illusion that gives people comfort in the end days of dying. And this is what you always heard your grandma's talking about is the last days, your mother talking about is the end of times. And this is an illusion that this religion gives you that if you simply repent for your sins without changing behavior or actions, without simply even following your own book, you can still reach heaven or enlightenment. But different people like Elijah Muhammad tells us that heaven and hell is a state of the mind, And this breaks the shackles of Christianity and it breaks the comfortability. So the struggle, the suffering is what brought me to Buddhism. It the suffering and the struggle being shielded, being filtered, being covered in the so-called blood of Jesus, dying for my sins and feeling like I don't have to do any work here on the earthly plane is a way to comfortably let the higher our hierarchy or the so-called elites let us get on our knees and close our eyes and pray to an invisible man while they take everything that's on our land. So it's not only a comfortability illusion, but it's also a financial tactic and an oppressive tactic. And I'm not saying that everyone should let it go. Like I say, shout out to my mother who have brought her to a level of enlightenment and changed her life completely. So if you are intelligent or spiritually enough to use the tactic in a correct way, you can use Christianity if you are strong enough mentally and spiritually. But the suffering and the struggle is what truly brings you to systems like Islam, like Buddhism. So, just to wrap things up on that, we have to always beam in on the struggle and suffering when we're talking about religion. So, I hope that sums that up.
And here to
Buddha, Buddha.
John.
Yeah, you can call it voodoo. You can call it hoodoo. It's many different. It's many different categories of this, but calling it voodoo, we understand what you're speaking of, sir.
Okay, so when I saw the movie, a lot of times, I said, like, coming up as a child, you automatically like that is like the first thing that comes across my mind. And as an adult, if nobody ever taught you different, like times I've seen you teach that. Now I've been uh, blessed enough to have a mindset, so we study a lot of different things and not just be focused on one thing. So I did find that um, it was a lot good into this spiritual realm that we go into. Um, I've heard people turn into snakes in Africa. Now this could be crazy. I could be tripping, but I've heard people actually like turn into like different types of animals and stuff when they go into the spirit world. So and I know that's a part of it when it could be definitely so. Like, what part are you into? Like, what
Um,
part of it? If you don't mind me asking, I know this personal question.
yes, sir. Well, I'm part of the Yub tribe of Budan, and we believe many different things. We believe that there's many different entities and many different hierarchies that we will call gods. We need to understand that we all have been practicing rituals of voodoo. We all have been practicing certain sacrifices. Voodoo is in almost every step that you can take. Now, normally when you hear this term of voodoo, the reason why it has the bad energy on it is, of course, that's the system. Of course, it's the pharmaceutical companies that I will speak about in a minute. But if you go back and you study slavery times, and we will start at slavery, when the slave master got sick, who did he call for? Go get that old woman who practiced the voodoo off in the hut that I own in the corner of the yard, and she would come and she would heal him. So at a certain point in time, they believed in voodoo. They used voodoo for the benefit of thyself. And think about Christianity. Think about communion. I don't know if you ever took communion or how deep anyone is into Christianity, but communion talks about eating flesh and drinking blood. They give you bread and wine, but this is a voodoo ritual. Eating flesh and drinking of blood, that's a ritual. That's a voodoo ritual that we have been taking place in. Absolutely. The Christianities are what I call fakers of this ritual. They don't want to eat any flesh. They're not going to sacrifice one of their missionaries or their deacons of the church. That's what they would usually do. They would find somebody who was selected, someone who was powerful, someone who we would miss truly, and they would sacrifice them in the name of our gods, or the name of the sun, or the name of the moon, or the water. And they would eat of the body, eat of the flesh in the name of the God that they are worshiping. See, the Christians nowadays, they want to, remember I told you it's all about comfortability. So they're going to eat the fake bread that they break off, the croutons, and they're going to drink the Welch's grape juice and mimic the system. But we have to understand, and they understood that no matter if you are mimicking something and so-called faking or doing a replica of the ritual, you're still doing the ritual. Even I heard one time from a great entrepreneur, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, But he said that he went to a voodoo priest, and the voodoo priest told him that it's very simple. And we believe in the Ilk tribe that is very simple as well. Rituals can be anything. Rituals can be thinking that I'm going to be a millionaire. But you're not only thinking that you're going to be a millionaire every day at 7 o'clock, you're thinking you're going to be a millionaire every day at 7 o'clock and you take a bath every day. And while you're taking a bath, you're thinking, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to attract the money. Money is manifested to me. Eventually, this will become a system of self, and you have billions of trillions of blood cells, skin cells, and different organs inside your body that's all working in placement for your advancement. This is a ritual that you can place yourself inside of by just being repetitive every day. So once we start understanding what a true ritual and sacrifice is, we start understanding that Buddha is intertwined in everything we do. So you know, it's more simple. A lot of people think that it's nonstop devil worshiping and sacrificing animals and doing different things, in which we do have a certain level of the yin and the yang, right? We have a soul above, soul below. If there's good, there has to be bad. If there's light, there has to be darkness. And if there's life, there has to be death. So this is what we do, right? We have a lot of different masking jars and a lot of different just small traits that we intertwine in on the daily matter. Now, if you're talking about different secret society systems, no one can, I can't sit here and explain all the rituals to you all day. I'm part of one tribe and we believe in one spiritual system. And we're not saying that anyone else is wrong, but we're saying that one of ours is one of the oldest. And
Well, no, and to be clear, like I have seen, I don't remember her name, it was like some type of fake ritual where they actually ate her body, but it was made of cake, like what I'm saying, and it was still the actual same ritual. It was made of red velvet with Indian icing, what I'm saying, so it cut it open, it looked like a human, but they did it as a ritual. So I definitely know exactly what you're talking about when you say the mimicking of the fake ritual. I mean, they put it in our videos today, so I know exactly what you're talking about. It's just like, yeah, that's great. Man. But I'm glad that you're more into it of the spiritual health wise of it, not to like down and destroy anybody. Because if you use anything to down and destroy anybody, I do think that people don't recognize that either. Like, and when you speak on, how the Bible uses to oppress people or he used to manipulate people, you can go back into like a person like Jim Jones who let his own, what I'm saying, people to die. Like, so this is a Christian organization, what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And he let all these people die. So I definitely know what you're talking about. It's like it's good and bad and everything. It's good and bad and anything that you do, really. So
absolutely, absolutely.
definitely go with that. Miss Honey, got anything else to go for you? I know you're sitting there chilling.
Yeah, I'm just listening. I'll be understanding and all.
Okay, well, we're gonna talk. I mean, if you guys understand us, throw it in. But we're gonna go ahead, man. We just talked on the spiritual level. I know everything on the going spiritual, so we can definitely figure out how to get that back in fine. Let's go ahead and move on over to health because what you specialize in um, is biochemical science, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
can you explain that for me?
Yes, sir. Well, it's simply put, it's just the study of all plant matter in the world, the trees, the flowers, the herbs, the vegetables, the fruits, anything that has to do with a plant, if it has a healing mechanism or a use to the world, whether it's for the human anatomy or the outer world, we pretty much study every single genetic makeup of the plant. So it's just the study of botany. Botany is the study of plants. I would like to deem myself as, and let me put it on record. I put it on record last year, but let me put it on record right now. I deem myself as the next George Washington Carver, one of the greatest black men to ever study plants. I am the next one coming from Akron, Ohio. It's a long journey, but we will make it. And shout out to George Washington Carver. Rest in peace.
Hey, hey, and his story about how his mama got kidnapped, you know, one of that,
Yeah,
yeah,
real
yeah, keep
deep.
going.
Long journey in this. Yes, sir.
Man, long journey, bro. Keep going.
Yes, sir. So yes, I just um love to study plants. I bring up George Washington Carver because I say it's a love of mine. But, I can't see myself doing anything else but exactly what I'm doing now. I even tried to quit a couple of times, but the plants just keep calling me. So that's why I deem myself.
They really talk to you. Supposed to talk to your friends and your brother.
Absolutely,
I believe it.
Is
absolutely.
that why mine is nice?
You want to talk to your friend?
you
No,
should you should
my grandma taught me to talk to the plants like the plants are living. Like see the reason I started like realize that everything in this room is really like living. Like nothing is something we can made, but everything that's really in this room is natural. It's really like an actual living organism. You know, start realizing that. So
absolutely.
you got something to your plants.
Yeah, plants are actually very intelligent. Plants cry when they're being, when you smell grass when somebody's cutting it, that's grass crying. It's laying off a pheromone. It's trying to tell other grass that it's being attacked, and then we should start reproducing. Um, you can play classical music to plants, and they will respond. If you play it on a normal frequency, they will start growing better. So it's more than just sunlight and water for plants. It's definitely a interactive thing. They're definitely a living organism, and they have so-called, I don't like to say that they have emotions as far as comparing them to humans, but they definitely have a frequency of understanding what's going on around them. If you are a sad, depressed person, sometimes your houseplants will die. If you are a sad, depressed person, sometimes you can sow seeds and they won't come up. So this is the importance of having a relationship with the not only the plants but just nature in general, because they get more than just the plants that we know of. We're speaking about the fungi kingdom as well, which is 10 times more important than the plant kingdom. So it's definitely a relationship based. And I bring up fungi because this is where we start talking about relationships and plants. Fungi is, without fungi, we would not have anything. We would not have the plants, the animals, or we would not even be living here having oxygen. Fungus have a relationship with trees under the ground. We call it mycelium. They have a relationship, and it gives off water, H2O, and nitrogen. So the fungi will find additional H2O for the trees, and the trees will give the fungi nitrogen. The nitrogen fuels the mycelium under the ground, and it will prolong the life of the fungi and reproduce the fungi to help other plants. And so I bring up that to say it's definitely a relationship thing here. Plants and fungus is definitely doing its part. So we should definitely do our part, at least speaking to them and taking care of them properly.
At least not leaving a freaking can on the grass or something. Like
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
be like Stanley, stay off my grass, man. You know, we gotta let the grass, let the trees. And for real, 'cause I don't think people know this how like, a plant too effective. Like, it's like unless you into those type of things, I don't think people really notice that. How the trees give off oxygen or the carbon dioxide and let off oxygen.
Yeah,
Right. So and we do the opposite. You know what I'm saying? We really working together as a team because we take in air and let out carbon dioxide for the trees take in carbon dioxide and let out the air. So it's more
yeah,
effective in this thing. So,
yeah.
we probably should respect it a little bit more. Um, we do have a question from the audience that said you want to know about more healing plants. Can you elaborate on some healing plants for us?
Absolutely. There are many healing plants. I would like to say that there are 88,000 different edible plants that we can engage in. Each of these plants have some type of healing mechanism for you if engaged in the correct manner or put through the correct process. There are a large level of plants that are so-called deemed poisonous for us, but for the most, you can even take things like pokeberry, which is a poisonous plant, and you can use it for benefits like blood pressure and blood cholesterol and different things. My top, I would say five to just give you off the top of my head. Echinacea or Ignacia, depending on how you pronounce it. Echinacea is one of the flu fighters that I have actually at KhAn.com. It's one of our main products that we have. It's a flu fighter. It's the purple cones flower. It's perennial. It comes every year. We actually grow over 200 plants of it here in our gardens. And it is one of the top influenza herbs that we have to fight against bronchitis, coughs, flus. It was one of the most top herbs that we used during the corona season, added on with elderberry as well to fight against the flus and different viruses and help the immune system that we have. I will also deem in on mugwort, which is great for digestion, which is great for blood cholesterol, and also relaxation using with reflexology. I will also deem horehound and burdock mixed together, which is great for, like I say, uh, inflammation all throughout the body, bone health, musculoskeletal health, the respiratory system, the circulatory system. And I can sit here and talk about healing plants and herbs all day, but I want to keep in mind that every plant or every food that has a healing mechanism to it might not be the plant for you. You need to study your human anatomy. You need to study these plants thoroughly, or get with a so-called botanical scientist or guru or physician or different shamans that can sit with you and tell you exactly what these botanicals will do to your body. I bring this up to say that we have all DNA genetic makeups, and it deems heavily as far as the DNA genetic makeups of the plants, as far as what we should be consuming. And I will speak about that more in a minute as far as the DNA genetic makeup. So, like I said, I know I went real fast through the list as far as herbs, and she can always I think it was Linda who posted the comment. She can always book a free consultation at KhAn.com where I can have a better uh, understanding of what she is looking for, any complications she is going through, to be able to so-called recommend or prescribe her a so-called healing regimen or target diet for her if she is very concerned about these healing plants. Um, and like I said, we can talk about the healing list all day, and I'm sure I will cover more as we go along.
Are these some of the things that Dr. Sadie was doing?
Absolutely. I would say 60% of the list that I would ever recommend or prescribe to people, Dr. CB definitely spoke about and definitely prescribed to people as well. I have all love and respect for Dr. CB, and I like to let people know that he died in the middle of his work. And in the midst of him dying, he was reconstructing that list, and a lot of those things are outdated, but a lot of those plants he was right on with. So, yes, specifically, burdock, mugwort, and elderberry, he spoke about a lot. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you were going to speak on the pharmaceutical situation earlier.
Oh, yes, sir. And thank you for reminding me about that. Because this is what's going to fight against all of us when we start speaking about these things. We have to understand that the pharmaceutical company, to go back to what I was saying earlier, the pharmaceutical company, once we break down the word pharmacy, pharma, pharmaceutical, pharmakeia is one of the oldest words for this. This is words for sorcerer. This is words for conjuring. This is words for magic. If you look up Rite Aid that we know of, like CVS and Reddit, they could have spelled it RIGHT, but they spelled it RITE, as in ritual. Aid, as if you look up the Latin root word for aid, this is sorcery, this is conjuring, this is magic making. So you get ritual and you get aid, as in right aid, as in ritual sorcery, ritual conjuring. And you will see the caduceus, which is on the ambulance, which is the medical serpent that you see on ambulances. This is symbolizing the serpent, the kundalini energy of the mind. They're targeting the third eye of people. So I want to bring up this before to say that the pharmaceutical company is nothing but voodoo, is nothing but magic, is nothing but sorcery of its own plateau that we have been engaging in rituals and sacrifices without even knowing by taking pharmaceutical drugs and over the counter pharmaceuticals as well. Now, when speaking about pharma, it is always critical. It's very deadly to speak against them, and because it's very serious. We need to understand that the pharmaceutical company is a billion-dollar, trillion-dollar company every year. They do not make money if you are healthy. They do not make money if you are dead. They need you sick. They need you right in the middle. So what they're going to do, take a complication that is rapid in our community, like syphilis. Once you get syphilis or gonorrhea or any type of STD or similar viruses of such, what they're going to do is give you certain type of drugs. And I'm not going to deem on any drugs because they're patent and you can't get sued for speaking against certain pharmaceutical drugs. So I'm not going to mention any brand names, but they're going to give you a pharmaceutical drug once you get these type of viruses like STDs. And what these pharmaceutical drugs do, they don't cure you because they don't make any money if you leave out the door and don't have gonorrhea anymore. What they do is take away the symptoms. They take away the burning. They take away the itching. They take away the weird urine color. They take away all the bad symptoms of these viruses and they mask them. You still have the symptoms. Well, you don't have the symptoms, but you still have have the virus, you still have the disorder, but you're not feeling the symptoms any longer. So you're thinking that you don't have the complication any longer. This is why when you do a report, and I forget which university, but it was just a university that did the report in 2020. They did a report and they seen that 60% of the people who are diagnosed with syphilis and gonorrhea and so-called STDs, 6 to 7 years later, they go back to the physician and they have the STD again, and they may have only had one sexual partner over those years. What this was is 6 years ago when you have got gonorrhea or you got syphilis or you got one of those viruses, they never cured you from it. They took away the symptoms, and now 6 to 7 years later, that pharmaceutical drug has worn off, and your symptoms have now shown themselves or revealed themselves. And now you have to go pay again for the testing. You have to pay again for the pharmaceutical drug. And this is based on people who don't have insurance because a lot of us in America don't have insurance. So this is a financial scheme that the pharmaceutical companies is doing to us. And it starts in school. I'm going to release a report here soon this week about the systems of schooling, public schools, not so much in private schools, but if you remember correctly, if you went to certain public schools that had was deemed in low poverty neighborhoods, the pharmaceutical companies had licensing agreements with public schools and dental registries. These dentist offices would come in, and some of us remember it, some of us don't. But they gave us what we call no rinse fluoride. They came in a little pink solution, and they gave you a pink cup of something, a sugary substance, and you had to drink the substance, and it was a fluoride. And they told you it would make your teeth better. They said it was an oral experiment that they were doing, and they gave us this for years, ever since the 80s, I believe, through the late 90s. They were giving public school students, there's no rinse. I'm sorry, na rinse. That's NAFRINSE. This pink solution fluoride, and what this fluoride was initially doing was fluoride does strengthen the proenamel of the teeth, but what it really does is target the pituitary gland and the pineal gland of the mind. And once the pineal gland and the pituitary gland is calcified, the medulla oblongata and the pons of the cranium does not work as well on a higher frequency, and you start to understand things a little less. Your comprehension level goes down. Your enlightened level on a spiritual level gets decreased. So the pharmaceutical companies have their hands in everything, and we can speak about this heavily, but I definitely want to speak about how they are intertwined in public school because that's when it starts. That's when they start decreasing your health from a young infant stage or a young adolescent stage. So the pharmaceuticals company is very, very drastic to stay away from. Right, right. Yes, yes. A lot of people don't, but a lot of people do remember that pink substance that they used to give us. It used to come in a little cup, and they used to. Yeah, yeah, it was, and it came. I remember the package the pink pills came from. They came in this little. It almost looked like a birth control package. Hmm. Yeah, look it up. Look it up. It's not French, not French, man, not French fluoride. Look up the pink substance they give to elementary school students. Started in the 80s, and like I said, I will. If you don't look it up, you don't have to worry. Follow my pages, subscribe to my pages. I'm going to be linking a whole document report against this substance because I think they're trying to bring it back. So we're going to definitely try to figure out how to combat against that in our communities. Some of the best plants to keep in the home, as in house plants, I would deem aloe vera, bamboo, all succulents, ZZ Xanthophilus plants, uh, cactus plants. All cacti is great. Cactus have a relationship with other plants, and they act as a motivator to other plants. So if you have one or two plants that's struggling, you can get a cactus plant, and a lot of people don't believe it, but I heavily believe it. Studying these plants, that cactus. This is why they are so strong, right? They live on less water. They live in harsh conditions. Some of cactus plants are some of the OGs of the plants. So if you put a cactus plant around your other house plants, they give them a pep talk. They give them a motivational speech. Tell them that they have more life and keep going. So if you have any house plants, you should probably deem a succulent or a cactus plant, and then you will see an abundance of growth or a different ecology and the airflow because plants clean the air in the home. So to keep it simple, succulents. This includes aloe vera plants, ZZ Xanthophilus plants, money trees. Like I say, all succulents and all cacti is great. Um, Rubber plants, bamboo, banana trees inside the home is great. Um, and it's a long list of house plants that's very simple. Wandering Jews as well. It's easy to grow. And you should also try to even deem in growing vines in the plant in the house. This can be a moringa tree that grows into if you can teach moringa trees to curve over doorways and it's smart enough to also produce food for you. You can take the bark and mix it into a tincture and also have home health remedies with plants like moringa. And like I say, to go against vines, you can even have an elderberry vine inside your home, and this could be deemed as to replace different cough syrups and different things like that. So
I see somebody make some software with some other very like some homemade software. It was fire too.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yes, sir.
So, before we go ahead and get off of that topic, I want to just elaborate a little bit more on when you were speaking on the pharmaceutical companies because, like you said, with them not hearing you, is to keep you around. I definitely had a few people around me in my life that, you know, they went into the hospital for one thing and then became addicted to a certain drug, like it in morphine, whatever it was they were prescribed them. They became addicted to it, and it's like oh, I need it. So they constantly going to the doctor to keep on getting this pill because it makes them feel better. But obviously, it's not helping.
Right,
I
absolutely,
usually hear it. That was the one to make them feel better. What
absolutely,
makes me feel better is the devil. You know?
yeah, yeah,
But it really feels like it really makes you addicted to certain times when you watch something, you start seeing some weird stuff go on, man. You start seeing weird stuff going on with the people you love over this drug. And it's like, damn, y'all could have looked like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? I know we
yeah,
spent the money in it for you. But now you got this person begging you for a couple dollars to help you get this. And so you can feel good. And it's still not even helping you, so we ain't getting nowhere. Y'all just like got all kinds of ways about
oh
shooting
yeah,
with these little arrows and shit. Man, it's crazy,
oh yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah, and it's definitely it's definitely a scheme. As we look up these pharmaceutical companies, some of the oldest pharmaceutical companies that's out there, if we look up the origins or we look up how these foundations have got started, you will find people named Carnegie, you will find the Rockefellers, and what they were doing, and this is around the 1800s. This is around the earth, I would say at the latest 1925, back to the 1800s. What they were doing where they were finding witch doctors, they were finding naturopathic doctors, homeopathic doctors, and they were killing us. They were killing us before they even started pharmaceutical drugs because they knew what was to come. By the time of 1925, over 60,000 homeopathic doctors and naturopathic doctors were either incarcerated or without jobs or kidnapped and never saw again. And we have to understand that these patents come through petrochemicals. Petrochemicals is what's being used on the basis of these pharmaceutical drugs. So what they will do, take sugar as an example. People always talk about how sugar is one molecule away from cocaine. It is sure to be deemed as a drug. Sugar has 56 different names of it. The sugar that we know of, the white grainy substance, that's only one of them and that can only be named sugar. You have fructose, glucose, fructose, and a whole bunch of other toasts that you have. They're all one molecule different from each other, but they are sweeteners and they are the same substance that works against us.
Yeah,
And
people deserve to be addicted to sugar.
you can definitely be addicted to any white substance, baking soda, flour, salt, sugar. Any white substance needs to be prevented stayed away from unless you are literally healing a wound or healing a disorder that can kill you at a rapid speed. But we have to understand that these monopolies, they came in 1869. They came in 1925. Like I say, you find the name Rockefeller, you find Carnegie. And once we start looking these people up, we start understanding that they had no type of understanding of what was going on. And I say that to say these were salesmen. These were
Cardi
secret.
is part of the top 10.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Cardi is part of the top 10. Rockefeller
The top
all them
elite
other
of the
guys.
world. Yes, sir. It's one of the families that's running
Right,
things.
one of the families. Okay, I got you.
Yes, sir. And you
That's a
can
whole nother
find
story, though.
no, yeah, it gets deep, and I deem anyone who is looking at this to look up Carnegie, to look up Rockefeller, and to look up what they were doing early times in the pharmaceutical companies. It will blow your mind of the just the simple conversations they had of looking at us as test experiments, not understanding what these substances are doing, and we see it now today with Corona. They had no type of time to study those shots. They had no type of time to study that so-called medication. And what did they do? They got in those labs. They tossed a couple things together based on old, outdated information. They put a patent on it, and then they found a way to package it. Before they even found a way to seal the package, it was in our doctor's office. So we have to understand that it's all about monopoly. It's all about controlling. They understand that your teeth, that you have 32 teeth, and those 32 teeth eventually in your lifetime will give you a complication. Someone is sitting back figuring out how can they get a dollar off of each tooth. So we have to understand that. That this is they look at you as a price tag. If they're not going to kidnap you and steal your organs and sell you off, they have to figure out how they can get the money while you own your organs.
If they
And
can't, if they can't kidnap you
absolutely.
and steal your work,
Absolutely. And we go back to one of the first patent medications ever was chloral. Chloral was a sedative that they was giving people. And this sedative was to cure anxiety. It was to help midwives and home wives deal with pressures of depression and all of this. But once you look up chloral, what it is not only a sedative, but it's a hypnotic sedative. So it puts the mind in an illusional state. So once this person would get on this medication, they would 9 times out of 10 go see their physician, who was acting as a therapist, and the therapist will tell you to eat certain things, to eat a certain diet, to take care of the home in a certain way, to treat your husband a certain way, to not work certain jobs, to teach your kids certain things. And as you take these medications, you get into some type of psychological hypnotic veil, and this is how you're easily controlled. So people can look that up. It's Chloral, and it is like I said, is a hypnotic sedative medication from I believe 1869, one of the first medications that they patented as far as the pharmaceutical using against us. So if we look up that, we can be able to understand that no other medication after had any type of true benefit for us. And we can also look up the Tuskegee Airmen and when they had syphilis and how they injected them with syphilis and saying that they were curing other diseases. And then they experimented on them over the next 20 to 50 years. So the pharmaceutical companies have their hand in everything. And we definitely need to keep track of it. And this is the important, I only deem it so long on it because this is the importance of eating right now. Because if we eat right now and we take the herbs that we have in placement, we can stop seeing the doctor so much. We can stop seeing the physician so much. So definitely keep in mind the pharmaceutical company is against
but these people are these like certain people who wearing all these foods that's okay to eat. So it's like
you. Yeah.
they definitely making sure that they keep us in a range. Um, I also speak on who has stated, what was it? How did I say that? What was it? Who has stated with like, okay, the pharmaceutical companies, they definitely keep us in the trade, man. The way they get the money off of us, the way they keep on letting us remember to keep on getting these dollars off us for every little thing, like you said, a dollar per tooth. And like I know for a fact, like it's gonna be like for even getting your wisdom tooth, and like you don't have um insurance, it's like what 200 or something like that. I think I paid like
Yeah.
200 for
Around
wisdom
there.
tooth, and then that was for each one, like you know what I'm saying? So
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
I said you have a business, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have
So
multiple
how,
businesses.
so how do health and spirituality tie into your business?
Just the art of everything. Honestly, and the information. Studying all of this that we have spoken about thus far. Watching documentaries of what was really going on inside of manufacturing companies and producing companies and USDA's and different FDA companies, different things like that. After studying so much, an old woman told me one time, it's like, if you knew Jesus was in Israel, would you not go to Israel to experience him existing? And what she was trying to tell me is that once you learn something exists, you have to follow suit or you are penalized even more. This is where ignorance is bliss comes into manner. Just studying, just reading and studying and finding this information, I could no longer live my life the way I was living. And so as I transitioned my life and started to feel better, started to think better, started to transition to a higher level, I want the people around me to kind of, follow suit. Maybe you didn't have to be vegan because I didn't start off vegan. I started off pescatarian, vegetarian, then with the vegan, so and it's a hard battle with the diet. So I wanted to try to create a system or organization or just do my part on the fight towards better health of living, specifically in the African American community, but all over the world. Like I say, my videos go globally, so I want to speak to anyone and everyone who is willing to transition their way of living or their way of life, not thinking about what was on the plate, and try to transition it into the lifestyle or apply it into the lifestyle. And once I started doing that, I started to get an understanding of consumption. And this goes to one of my major mottos, or one of my major pins, which is the three stages of consumption, which I have a book being released here in May 30th. The three stages of consumption, digestion, health will be released, and it's a digestion guide that speaks about the three times that we should be consuming foods and how to conduct yourself after you consume food, because that's what health is about, correct? It's about what's on the plate, but not only what's on the plate, but it's how you are engaging in it, right? So the three stages of health, or the three stages of consumption, excuse me, we have stimulation, we have assimilation, we have elimination. These three stages, no matter what you are eating, if you, long everyone should be staying away from red meat, but even if you are eating animals,
I
even
love steak, man.
yeah, and a lot of people do, but I can prove to you in a small moment that you don't love the steak. Um, but you know the what I'm getting at is, even if you are eating the steak, brother, you do it on a certain frequency or find a certain pattern to your digestive system, and you can still live healthier than the average person who is eating steak. So, like I said, we have the stimulation, we have the assimilation, and we have the elimination. The stimulation is 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. You should not eat your first meal to 12 p.m. This is the afternoon time. Anywhere between this, you need to be eating the heavier meal of the day, the potato or the steak or whatever you're going to eat that's going to be heavier. The next stage we have is the assimilation period. This is 3 o'clock, after 3 o'clock to 7 p.m. This is, you can kind of eat a heavier meal, but you need to eat things. Oh, excuse all of that. The first stage is 12 to 3, which is the stimulation period. You need to eat the fruit. This is the cleansing of the body. This is preparing the enzymes, the digestive enzymes in the gut through the tongue to get ready to digest the heavier meal, which is at the assimilation period, which, like I say, is 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. This is when you are most active, when you're moving around the most, so you can burn off more of that fat, so you can burn off more of those calories, and you're not sitting on your meal. That gives it time to digest, in the elimination period, which is 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., but I don't deem till 9 p.m. I just say you should stop eating food at 9, but this is all the way through the night. This elimination period takes place. And this period is when the body is eliminating all of the waste, so you're not going to sleep on a heavy stomach, so you don't have all of that so-called rotten flesh or decaying food inside of your body as you go to sleep. This is why people sometimes wake up in the middle of the night with stomach aches. Why people wake up early in the morning with bad breath, and wake feeling sluggish is because they ate too heavy or at the wrong times. So if you can get the three stages of consumption onto a frequency, we can eventually figure out how to become healthier people, even if we're not eating 100% fruits and vegetables and herbs. So this is something important to remember. And I found this information and I so-called executed this information not only into my life but into my teaching, into teaching people what target diets was, because it's not only about a frequency. Okay, it's not only about what you are eating. We have to understand that everybody has a DNA genetic makeup. And these DNA genetic makeups is why we are unhealthy. We're not following the African genome. This is that I'm speaking to the African American, the African in America. We are not eating based off our DNA genetic makeup. If you look up the 1800s or the early 1900s, when Asians came over to America, they brought their diet with them. When Indians from India come over to America, they bring their diet with them. Jamaicans do the same thing nowadays. The Europeans did the same thing. What we did is our boat ride was different. We didn't have any cookbooks and those recipes on those boat rides when we came over here. So we ate whatever we could. And by whatever we could, we ate by whoever we was around. Whoever we was around was the European. So we started engaging in the European diet. We started drinking milk when milk is a growth hormone, and we don't need it that much. We don't need it at all. We don't need milk from any other animal at all. Once you stop breastfeeding from your mother, you don't need to engage in any milk. Dairy products, if it's not a fermented dairy product that use lactobacilli, a great good bacteria, you don't need to engage in dairy products. The white bread, before we got with the Europeans, we were eating things like rye and sourdough and wheat to be the last one. When we got with the Europeans, we started eating things like white flour, and that was in the breads. We didn't cook the bread as much. So I like to bring up the culture. I like to bring up the history of it. I like to bring up the DNA because it's genetic here, right? And at KhAn.com, we offer DNA genetic analysts, right? You send in your DNA to us, we send it to a genome plate lab that we are partnered up with. They do tests on your DNA if you are part of Ancestry.com already or you did 23andMe already. It's a little bit cheaper for you because they already have your DNA in the bank and they can compare it. But you send in your DNA, we test your DNA and we find out exactly what times you should be eating, what fruits work better for you, what vegetables work better for you, what sugar or starch or proteins you should stay away from, and how to calculate your exercises, how to calculate your yoga and other expertise of the body based on your DNA genetic makeup too. And like I said, you can find that at KhAn.com. But this is based on the target diet. And once you do the DNA genetic makeup, we send you all this. We send you a report insight based on your blood work. We send you an insight based on your skin cells and every single detail that matters as far as consuming food. And we also send you a diet list with a long list of herbs, a long list of fruit, and a long list of vegetables that can help you based strictly off of your DNA. Not no Dr. CB list, not no Dr. Africa teachings. This is simply based off you personally. So this is where I was, eventually trying to get at, and this is what I'm going to be unleashing more this year is the DNA genetic makeup of not only the tentacles but also the human anatomy. So yes, sir. Yes, sir. At KhAn.com, you can find a little bit of everything I mentioned. Yes, sir. And if anyone, who watching this or now or later, wants to speak about anything I spoke about, like I said, at KhAn.com, we do have free 25-minute consultations where we can where you can speak about any disorder or complication you are having. Me or assistant will listen. Usually it will be me because I like to give a personal standpoint with you guys because I'm the one who's studying consecutively. So I will take the time to listen to any history complication you have, to modern day complication you have, and we will be available for anybody. If you do deem a little bit longer time, we do have $25 45-minute consultations for anyone who is confused about any of this because it is a confusing matter and it is a hidden agenda to make sure you guys don't receive this information. So, yes, sir. Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't mind it at all. I don't mind it at all. So anyone who needs assistance, it's all good. I appreciate her presence. We needed that, right? We need the balance. That's what the Africans was always about, right? It was always about balance. We always needed an African goddess present, just in case we get out of line. She can line us back up and get us back on track. So we always need an African goddess in the room, even if she just spectating, feeling the vibe, or lighting candles for us. We always need them around, you know. So thank you for even showing up. Thank you for your presence. Absolutely, man. It's KhAn.com. You can get your free consultations there. You can get the DNA genetic reports there. You can get all herbs that I spoke about there. And also on all platforms on Instagram. We would love more followers on Instagram. We would love more subscribers on YouTube. We get a lot of love on Facebook. We have a large thousands of family on Facebook that give us love support. But we can always use likes and shares there. Any support that you give us, whether it's just a simple email or a direct message telling me to keep going. We appreciate all support. Like I say, you can reach us at KhOFiCon.com for the consultations, or you can email us personally at Khanian700gmail.com. That's KHANIAN 700 at gmail.com. We take all consultations up to 25 minutes free. No matter if you just want to talk about your cat, you want to talk about your grandmother and how she dealt with a complication, you want to talk about your auntie and how she mistreated you. Any consultation, this is a therapeutic thing that we're dealing with. This is a spiritual thing we're dealing with. And we have to understand that maybe we're not eating right because we're dealing with spiritual damages, emotional damages, and internal battles. So it can all start with one conversation, and that's why I offer the consultations and is beaming on it so much. So thank you to Podcast Lit. Thank you, Boom. Thank everyone who tuned in. Thank the opportunity in general. I look forward to even being on here again. I look forward to this day before. Okay. Okay. Absolutely. Yes, sir. Um, I don't ever tell anyone that they're wasting their time when it comes to these so-called conspiracy theories. I personally, now this is just what I personally believe at the moment. I've done a lot of research on the brother Yakub. That's Yakub. Yakub was a big head, big, they had the big craniums. They had a real large head. They said they had bigger brain space than we had. They lived up to 700, 800 years old back then. They talk about that they didn't have to eat, they didn't have to sleep. They had a telekinesis almost, communication with each other. I believe heavily in the science or the evidence that Yakub existed. Yakub is what we know of Jacob in the Bible. Back during the Bible, they did not have the letter J. This is why they say the name is Jesus, other than Jesus. Jacob, if this is true, then the J's was not existed. So Jacob's name would be Yakub, Hakub, somewhere along that pronunciation. So I have to say absolutely. And they say he was very tall. I forget how tall he was. I don't want to be wrong, but he was a giant almost. And, I'm not big on the so called fairy tales of the Bible, but I do believe on a certain plateau that we used to be different. We used to be chosen beings. Or if we were all chosen, there were chosen beings of the world. So to get back to what you're saying about the Anunnaki, I don't 100% know if all of the tales and stories of the Anunnakis is true. If all the wars that's going on with the Anunnakis today is true. But I do believe that Yakub walked the earth at a point in time of the world. No matter if he had the big head, no matter if he was a mad scientist, like they say, but they say this man existed. He was responsible for creating what we know as Caucasians, the white man. He spliced them between the Arabic man and the Chinese man, and he got the white man. He created them in the mountains. He stayed in the European mountains of Caucasus, and that's how we get the name Caucasian. And he said that he had made a mistake. He was a mad scientist. He made a mistake. He created a beast. That beast is what we know of cavemen. That caveman is Neanderthals. That Neanderthal is what we know them hunt day and night. They have TV shows of them hunting who? The Bigfoot. What is the Bigfoot? The Bigfoot is the Yeti. What is the Yeti? The Yeti is the Sasquatch. What is the Sasquatch? The Sasquatch is the Neanderthal. What is the Neanderthal? The Neanderthal is the oldest version of the Caucasian. So with this information, I deem that Yakub existed, and I believe it at this moment. With the information that I have up to date, and up to this point, I believe that Yakub existed. So if I believe in Yakub, I have to believe in the Anunnaki system because he was one of the greatest founders, if not greatest leaders, that ever was an Anunnaki from the history of
So
information.
you wouldn't say, so you wouldn't say that it's 100% real, but you do believe that it got something. You wouldn't say you wouldn't tell people to go and look at the research and do all this, but you do got some sort of belief in what's going on.
Yes, I have to believe that there are so-called extraterrestrial beings of the world. I have to believe that
Well,
there
if
are
you believe in God, you have to really.
absolutely because what are we dealing? We're using a Europeanized, fearful ideology of what an alien is. Of course, the people who was running America and Europe, and we're just going to say the Caucasians. Of course, the higher elites of the world would be scared of an extraterrestrial being who has advanced weapons and advanced technology. So of course they would try to make the rest of us believe that it is a demonic veil, that it is an enemy of the state. So, I believe that there are aliens here in this world that we can't even see. We have a whole galaxy on our hand right now. We just call it bacteria. That has a whole life. Bacteria can burp, germs inside of your body. It can burp. Germs inside of your body can sleep. Germs inside of your body can use the bathroom and communicate with each other. And if these germs are intelligent to have a life that can reproduce and that can use the bathroom and go to sleep, that's a whole existence, a whole level of entity that we have to deem as extraterrestrial on a certain plateau. It's just here in this world with us. That's still naked to the eye. So small microscope to giants. I believe that there's something else. And as I say, of today, I am not sure what it could be, what name we need to throw to title this entity or energy, but we are not the greatest. I know that for a fact. Um, and who knows? I'm very excited to see what the future holds as far as this new information coming out.
And big thanks. But I always said, like we really not too much different from a virus. Like a virus, it's
Yeah,
bad, it spreads. That's the hell we do. You know what I'm
absolutely.
saying? We really not that much different. So they multiply until something kills it off. So we really not that much different. But it probably is something bigger than what we know. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm pretty sure the smallest virus ain't gonna be like, oh, that's boomer. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
That's something you don't even know about. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
You know, so, yeah, but again, I want to thank you for coming on the show, bro. This month, I definitely want to thank you for spending your time with me, man. Everybody who watched, and listen, I want to thank y'all for your time. Spending your time expressing your valuable. I thank y'all for your time as well. Again, like I said, we are now on Spotify, man. I'm sorry for that, man. So we on Spotify. You can go ahead and check us out on there, man. We'll get some other platforms soon here. But again, thank you guys again for everybody going through. Don't forget, keep your head up, keep moving, man. Y'all have a wonderful night.
Yeah, good night.
Power is ultimate. Thank you. Power is ultimate. Hey, power is ultimate. Thanks for everybody showing up. We'll be back again soon.